Australia's largest energy company, AGL, this morning announced it would abandon plans to split the business, which would have seen its coal and renewable energy sectors demerged. Now, it comes after a long campaign from the tech billionaire and climate warrior Mike Cannon-Brookes, who has become the biggest single shareholder in the company and led a ferocious campaign against the demerger decision. Joining me now from Sydney to discuss all of this in some detail, our wonderful business editor here at Sky, Ross Greenwood. Ross, the announcement today, the demerger now off the table. Because of that, they'll lose their chairman and the CEO. Help us understand, what was AGL trying to do here and why was Cannon-Brookes so opposed?
OK, so a few things here. To understand AGL, Australia's oldest electricity company, goes back to the 1840s. The Australian Gaslight Company lit the first gas lantern in Sydney, going all those years back. One of the very first companies listed on the Australian Stock Exchange, Australia's largest energy generator. Now, the reason why it wanted to split in two was because it is also Australia's largest coal-fired power generator. And so it effectively wanted to put those assets into one company and keep many of its, shall I say, eco-friendlier assets and its retail arm into a separate business, which was to be called AGL Australia. Now, it was problematic right from the start. They lost already its long-standing chief executive 12 months ago, probably as a result of this deal. And then moving forward, Graham Hunt took the business forward and wanted to proceed with this split. But what really Mike Cannon-Brookes said was that he felt that by effectively demerging it, that they would really mean that that coal-fired business, the coal-fired power station business, would effectively wither on the vine, and it would be very, very hard to raise capital to make it viable in the long term. And so he said, keep them together and bring forward the closing dates of its coal-fired power stations from as late as 2045 back to 2035. And what happened was that more funds managers jumped on board, some of them industry super funds, but other funds managers as well were of a similar mindset, partly because of the expense in this separation, which some are suggesting could have been as much as $270 million. And no surprise here that AGL shares are held by many people, ordinary investors, and they'd been canvassed and 2-to-1 in many of the teal seats. So we're talking here about Kooyong, we're talking North Sydney, we're talking Bennelong. And the seats have changed in Parliament. A lot of those people were also on Mike Cannon-Brookes' side. They didn't want this company to split. They backed Mike Cannon-Brookes right here, right now.
All right. Talk to me about this concern about off-budget expenditure. We saw reports on the front page of The Australian today. Standard & Poor's, they are warning Labor $45 billion in these increased off-budget spends could force a downgrade of Australia's AAA. Doesn't get more serious than that.
Not really, no. So it's a genuine warning to the Albanese government not to go and spend. The problem for the Albanese government, if it doesn't reach a majority in the House of Representatives, what deals will it have to do with either Teals or indeed with the Greens to get its legislation through? And similarly, in the Senate, what deals will it have to do? So therefore, what will it have to spend to effectively get its legislation through the Parliament? That's going to be one of the keys. And so really this AAA credit rating is going to depend on the discipline of Katie Gallagher, the Finance Minister, and also Jim Chalmers, the Treasurer, to make certain they can continue to satisfy that they have discipline in their budget. That's going to be the key to that AAA credit rating.
Yeah, and we've got a new budget coming in October, and there's the political wisdom of have all that pain in the first year. So I suspect pain's coming our way. Just before we go, Yancoal. This will be a big test for the new Labor government on foreign investment. One of our biggest coal producers, Yancoal, its China state-owned parent wants a takeover to occur.
Yeah,
there's a lot at stake here with energy security.
It's going to be really important, this, because A, it's a strategic asset of Australia. B, it's got a Chinese owner as its major shareholder. C, there's problems about the timing as to when they actually knew that this takeover approach was in the winds. And then Jim Chalmers ultimately has a responsibility for making Foreign Investment Review Board decisions, because do remember, it's also a test of Australia's relationship with China under this new regime.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Thank you, Ross Greenwood.